All right, this is ITP 261, Task 6, Assignment 1, Usher's Syndrome. Let me tell you how I became aware of my visual limitations and how I've kind of felt about that. I was around 10 years old, and I was going to a Wisconsin school for the deaf. And a few friends and I were playing a game, hide and seek, and that was the first time that I played that game at night. I realized it was the first instance where I realized that I had a problem seeing at night. We started to play, and I was, counting, and all the boys ran and hid to their hiding places, and I start to go look for them, and I realized that I was kind of not running the same as everyone. I kept running into trees and tripping over branches and rocks, and but at that time I didn't really realize it. It didn't really bother me. All the other boys weren't running into trees like the same as me, and when the game was done, we all went inside and we saw the light in the building, and someone told me, one of the boys told me, they looked at me and they're like, what's wrong? What happened to your face? And your arms are all scratched and you got bruises. And I was like, I don't know what you're talking about. This is totally normal. So I'd go in and I'd see in the mirror, and I'd realize that nobody else had bruises on their arms or cuts, and maybe that's the first time I realized I can't really see very well at night. I could run just like the other boys, but I wasn't able to see as well as everyone else. About 2 months later, there was a really, really cold night, and all the boys and we went out to go sledding on a big hill that was outside. We went up to the top, and we were waiting, I was waiting for my turn. And there were a few different things, a couple trees and a barn on the way down, and I really wanted to make sure that I, tried to miss them, but it was nearly impossible for me to see. So I went ahead and I, took my turn down this hill, and I was feeling really good, and I realized that I ran right into something. And then I realized that I ran into someone. I happened to hit them right at their feet and have them topple over me, and I, realized as soon as they landed on me that was my teacher. And I was so embarrassed. I felt so bad. And my teacher, at first, I expected that she was going to yell at me, but she was really nice. And she, pulled me aside, and she's like, "Hey, can you see? Like, I have to ask you, are you able to, why did you hit me with a sled?" And I was so nervous. I was scared, and I said, "Oh, I didn't mean to do that. I'm so sorry." And but she told me, like, "Oh, that's okay. No need to apologize." And I was like, "What do you mean?" I was confused, and she's like, "Well, I realize that you hit me because you can't really see at night. You don't have the same vision as the other boys." And at first, I didn't believe her. I didn't believe that. But the more that I thought about it, the more I was reminded of that night when we were playing hide and seek, and I had, blue and purple spots and cuts all over me, and, none of the other boys had anything because I was the only one running into trees and tripping over rocks. It's kind of the first time I realized that I had a vision impairment, and I really accepted it, and it became a little bit easier for me to accept it, and I, allowed myself to kind of see the world through that lens. And I realized that I, hadn't been aware of my vision impairment for a long time, but I finally learned that I had Usher syndrome, which kind of causes a little bit of tunnel vision. And for about 2 years when I was going to school, and from 1969 to 1971, I was reading, when I was reading my textbooks, and I realized that you know, my right eye, the vision, would kind of black out of my right eye, and it wouldn't be the same out of both eyes. The right would be very blurry sometimes, and I realized that eventually both of my eyes, or the eyesight in both of my eyes, was starting to diminish. I started realizing that I had this problem for a long time, and now I'm starting to become more aware of my vision impairment. I was in my third and final year of school in the fall, and things started getting worse and worse. And I'd go into my classroom, and it was super hard to read the blackboard. I was just not able to understand my teachers, and I started thinking about what would happen with my eyesight, in the future. And of course, I was super nervous and worried, and so I decided to go to my teacher to help me focus on the work and to learn. And I got in touch with a doctor who was able to give me more information about my eyesight and what to do in order to improve it and kind of stop the deterioration of my eyesight.